Welcome to the Astrology Chronicles, Celestial Wisdom for the Soul. Hi, I'm Patty Kamson, intuitive astrologer and crystal connoisseur, also a certified energetic healer and founder of Crystal Energy Arrangements.
And I'm Tamari Ater, the astrofashionista, certified astrologer, Reiki energy healer, and founder of Gift of the Nile Wellness.
The Astrology Chronicles podcast will be your go-to spot for diving deep into the world of astrology and discovering how it influences your day-to-day life with personal stories and real-life client examples.
Our goal? To shine a light and share some love with everyone who tunes in. Whether you're astrology curious or a seasoned star chart reader, there's something here for you. So grab your favorite cozy spot and let's explore the stars together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Astrology Chronicles, and I'm Patty Kamson, intuitive astrologer and crystal connoisseur, and I have my amazing co-host.
I am Tamari, the astrofashionista, and so excited to talk Mercury. Very on the nose since we have a podcast to be talking about Mercury today during Mercury retrograde when we're recording this.
Yes.
So we're going to talk everything about Mercury communication. I don't know, Pat, if you want to kick us off, or I can just start rambling. Very Mercury.
No. So Mercury in the chart is also, we're going to say this all the time. Every planet is so important.
Yes, they
And
all
it
are.
is. Yeah, it really is. So Mercury is the planet of communication, how you think, how you process information. It's the planet of the mind. So you always want to know, especially with your children, how do they think? How they process information? How are they going to learn a language? Is it something that will come natural to them? All of those things. So when you look at Mercury, you're looking at, let's start with Aries. So having a Mercury in Aries, they are very fly by the seat of their pants. They are quick thinkers. They may say things before it's even really processed. They are quick, 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 quick. And sometimes they are fiery. So the words that come out may be a little sharp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So
when you're looking at Mercury, you want to see the sign it's in and what sign rules that Mercury, because that's a mix of the two energies. So when you mix Mars and Mercury, you're going to get cut sometimes. Not only with Aries, but also Scorpio Mercury, which is a rulership, traditional rulership, and they're going to sting you deep. And that's the negative, obviously, expression of it. But yes, the fire Mercury people are the spicy ones. They kind of just say what they mean what they say without much filter.
and that is Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo.
Yes.
Those are the fire.
I find that is really good for creativity, people that have great innovative ideas, people that are kind of not afraid to take charge when it comes to like there's nuances obviously in astrology, and we'll always preface that depending on the aspects, but that might be the people that are not afraid to go public speak, or they don't have a filter unless Mercury's retrograde in your chart. They're usually kind of bold and creative and confident when it comes to speaking, right? Whereas an Earth Mercury is definitely more methodical. You need things to make sense. They learn a certain way. They like structure and organization. I have Mercury in Taurus, so if it's like too out of this world, I need to see how does it visually and methodically make sense, or it just goes over my head. And so Mercury really does, it tells you your learning style. It does also tell your communication style, whether you talk really fast or you talk really slow. That can also be an indicator too, also.
Yeah, and depending on where it is, like we said, what house it's in and what other planets it is being aspected by. Mercury doesn't go too far from the sun. So if your sun sign is Pisces, you could have a Mercury in Aquarius and Capricorn, or on the other side, Aries and Taurus.
Yeah.
So there's like two signs on either end, but it doesn't stray into the third sign too much.
Mhm.
Um, so you may have this same, your sun sign may be the same as your Mercury sign.
Mhm.
A lot of people have that. So it makes it easier because you're more in alignment with your sun and your Mercury, which allows you to be more confident in your communication and how you think and how you process because you're in alignment. So you have your Mercury and sun in Taurus.
Mhm.
I have my Mercury and sun in Pisces. So for me, I'm very just like, la.
Yes, dream world, right?
I can be a little spacey. Um, my learning style was I have to see it, I have to do it, I have to touch it, because
Mhm.
otherwise it just floats away.
Mhm.
It's hard for me to like just retain it in a solid form. It just becomes different. Now my son is the same, my child. His sun is Pisces, his Mercury is Pisces, his Pisces Mercury was retrograde. And
Mhm.
so that retrograde Mercury can say that how you process and how you learn has a little twist.
Yeah.
And I always told him because he taught himself to read at 2 years old. It's
That was me. I was
crazy.
reading at 2, and I have Mercury retrograde in also. About 20% of people will, but yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I just always said the angels taught him to read because it's just amazing how it happens. But Pisces, that energy is very ethereal. So it's like you can kind of blend into that other realm where the all information is everywhere around us.
Yeah.
It's not on a computer, but there is information on computers, but energy is information and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of how we tune into it to bring it in so that we can use it. And
Yeah.
he was able to do that. And same with you,
I
Tamara.
love that. Yeah, that's so cool. That's interesting with the retrograde because I think a lot of the times when you have retrograde planets in a chart, it's uh because you work really hard at it, it can become a genius for you, especially when that planet goes direct in your progress chart.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like something that's really, it could be very strong for you. So don't be afraid if you have retrograde planets in your chart.
Correct,
Um,
for sure. They
that
can be
they'll
your superpower.
Right. Every planet was retrograde in my chart except Jupiter and Venus. And those are both ones in fall and ones in detriment. So I'm working, I have a lot of working.
And the moon and the sun.
Right. And the moon and sun. Yes. So that's, and the outer planets, they'll be retrograde like half of the year. But like, don't be afraid of that because it's just another manifestation of the energy, or it might mean that you have to repeat things or you work really hard at them. So
Yeah,
um, but Mercury also can, tell you what your interests are. I always find it interesting since we talked about, having Mercury in the same sign. I think it's very interesting when someone doesn't have that. It gives like a little quirk or dynamic to their personality. My ex-husband, this is one thing I actually liked about him. I liked a lot of things about him, but his Capricorn sun and Sag Mercury, he was a very passionate orator, whereas the other Capricorns that my mom was a Capricorn, I've been with a Capricorn that were more reserved. When I find that Mercury's in Capricorn for people, that does give them more of a reserved, methodical, but he was more of like a dynamic, and he was a great public speaker and, was a teacher basically, and philosophy was really important. So that Sag Mercury added a little bit of like a flair to
yes,
the interest. So that I'm always really attracted to that when it's like, the energy is a little bit different. It's a different take on the sun sign energy.
for sure. So the air Mercuries are definitely, again, they want to know, they want to understand, they want to learn, they want to teach, they want to share, they want to talk.
Mhm. Yes, they are the
They're the
talkers.
orators, they're the writers, they're even dance because it's just part of the movement. Poems, I mean, they just need to share. Um attorneys and lawyers
Mhm.
um, have those air Mercuries. They help them, I should say.
Yeah.
The networkers, the marketers are have the air Mercuries.
Mhm.
The ones that are really good at it, I'm sure. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, this is just there's other aspects, but having that the planet Mercury in an air sign, sharing, teaching, speaking, writing, is part of what you can do well.
Yeah. It's like you need that to even feel, that Mercury needs that, it needs that stimulation of other people and the mental stimulation. So yeah, that's a great point. Or if your Mercury's in a house that's more associated with a moon, an air house, like third house, that could also be another expression of someone that needs a lot of mental stimulation, needs a lot of communication. Yes. And then the fire Mercury we
You-
talked about, earth Mercuries we talked about, methodical, and then the water Mercuries. This is
Yes.
always interesting. What do you think about that?
Well, the water Mercuries are very emotional and intuitive, and feeling oriented on how they think and process. The way they feel is how they're going to express. It's a
Mhm.
combination. Um, and they can be very creative, poetic. They can be very healing.
Mhm.
Um, what else do you have to add? Because
And I
I'm
think they need to take their time to express themselves. It's not, don't
yeah.
expect them to spit it out like an air Mercury or maybe in a fire Mercury. They need time to process. Yeah, like, and some people might, oh, but like you have to respect the Mercury. Respect the child of
Respect the
Mercury.
Mercury. I
Yeah,
have
it's like
always
they
said that I feel like with my Pisces, well, all my Pisces, I feel like whenever I'm thinking and getting information, it's almost like a different language, and I
Mhm.
have to translate it into English and then say it. I get like pictures, or it just comes in so many different ways. I feel like it's sometimes I get stuck in my
Mm,
communication. So you're right. I need
yeah.
time to process. I'm not just boom, boom, boom like a Sag Mercury. I have a cousin, she has all this Sag, and she could just talk and just shoot from the hip. And I've always been in such awe, like, wow, what a gift. That is,
Right. It's like a download in a different way, right? We all have a download, but it just is in a different way.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that water Mercury's neat. It has to flow, right? And it might not even come out in the form of a verbal, so don't always expect that. It might
Mhm.
come out in a different way. Maybe they want to play you a song. Maybe they
Yes.
want to, writing is easier. People communication is really obviously that's the key, and I always bring back relationship astrology into that. And I think I used an example on one of our other episodes about my Mercury, that really being a breakdown of my marriage because we just didn't communicate. We had two different communication styles, and it was hard. One of us was going to have to make a major adjustment for it to kind
Yeah.
of flow. So that is important when you're honoring somebody's Mercury, to make sure that you can either get on their page or they can get on yours, or maybe you won't ever get on the same page. You'll constantly be chasing each other like cat and mouse.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. My partner, my boyfriend, he has his Mercury and Gemini. So Gemini Pisces, totally different.
Mhm.
But I love it. I've always loved a person with a great sense of
Yeah.
and quick, because they're not like me. So I'm fascinated by it. And he
Yes.
makes me laugh, and he's quick on his feet. So it works for me, and I understand. And he's gotten to learn that just because I don't respond right away, it's not because I'm ignoring or I forget. It's just like I have to process. I have to get my words together before I shoot off at the hip. I don't do it. I don't shoot off at the hip.
And you're adaptable in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So at least they're both mutable signs. There's some
Yeah.
level of being on the same page, even if it's not exactly the same.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, you want a little friction in a
you
relationship, people.
do.
You want a little friction, really?
Right. That's so true. That's where the growth comes. That's where some of the spark comes
The
from.
spark, the
Yeah.
excitement,
Right.
the
And so,
interest, the not being bored.
yeah, I can imagine he's someone that's like, hey, did you know this? And like knows all these other facts and
Mhm.
bringing things in, the curiosity and just keeping you even aware of things probably that maybe you wouldn't have explored if had he
Yes.
not been in your life. I'm just guessing, right?
Yeah, he's definitely inquisitive and curious, and we tease him. Even my kids now, it's like he likes to sightsee.
Oh yeah.
Like, I like to get to the
That's
destination, and
funny.
he wants to make stops and go sightsee. And what about this? Oh, I read about this. Why don't we make a stop over here? And it's like, oh, really?
Oh,
Do we have to?
that's funny. That's cute. I'm like, I'm like, can we just make it there? That's
I know.
that is true for Gemini plant. They just constantly are just questions, curious, like
Curious.
not information is not, and
Yes.
there's never enough information when you're dealing
Yes.
with a strong Gemini energy. And Mercury in Gemini is, it's in its rulership, it's very strong there. So
Yes.
those are the learners of, they learn.
Yeah.
So I like that. Yeah. I don't think there's anything else about Mercury that we left out. Um, we went through the elements, we talked about Mercury retrograde. Well, I think we can mention just Mercury retrograde in general and how it affects us all when Mercury is retrograde, since we
Like
are
now.
now, yes. And this is an important point, I think, because Mercury retrograde is a whole cultural phenomenon now. Ever since it's internet and social media, pretty much everyone has heard about it, even if you don't really believe in it. But there's reasons why some affect us more than others, right? Usually Gemini and Virgo people, or if you have strong Gemini and Virgo placements, it does tend to affect you pretty regularly when Mercury goes retrograde. But if Mercury's in a sign where, you have a personal planet or a house that's important for you, like right now, Mercury's in Aries. And before we recorded, I told Patty how this Mercury retrograde is really affecting me more than usual, because I have usually when you have Mercury retrograde in your chart, they say that you're not really as affected because you're kind of used to that energy. But for me, it really has been affect. I mean, I traveled during it. That's like Mercury retrograde, no, one-on-one. And also just a lot, it's in Aries. And so, I have my Venus in Aries, Patty does too. It's my sixth house of daily activities that is happening in. And so a lot is off kilter right now for this Mercury retrograde, whereas others, I just go by and I'm like, oh, I see everybody else being affected, but I'm fine. So how about you?
Yes. And
What about
the advice I give for Mercury retrograde is have a really good sense of humor, because Mercury is the trickster of the zodiac. It's
Mhm.
not really there to do anything horrific or bad, except, if you buy a car, a computer, and lay down those thousands of dollars, and then there's a glitch or a problem or something that happens with those things. But it's not there to ruin your life. It's
Right,
there to just kind of poke, 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 poke.
right.
So I say have a really good sense of humor. If your bags get lost on the airplane, know that you will get them maybe a day or two late, or you'll get insurance and they'll pay for most of the things in your bag, and you're going to go on your way. Something better may come of it. But yes, it is a nuisance. It represents cars and travel and electronics. Um, uh, did I say it all?
Information, yeah, car
Contracts.
contract. And
Yes.
I just had a thought. We ended up having to buy our house during Mercury retrograde, which I tried to avoid, but you don't know when you're going to close. And now that I think about it, it has been nonstop things,
That
not
need
with
to
the
be
house
relooked
itself,
at.
but like yeah, exactly here. And it's so crazy. And, that's something that was unavoidable for me. Like as an astrologer, of course, I didn't want to do that. But yeah, just be wary that, if you do have to sign some sort of contract during Mercury retrograde, you might always constantly be going back and redoing. We did refinance twice, which that was fine, but there's other things that it's just a constant. Um, and it doesn't feel settled. When I feel settled, it's like, oh, now this. which
Yes.
we were talking about offline before. So,
Yes, Mercury is the trickster, and it's about just paying attention, having a good sense of humor, that prankster, that person in your life that's always trying to do something to get on your nerves or make you laugh. Just like, oh, okay, you got my attention. Now let's keep going.
right.
It's not there to derail you and stop your life.
No,
Actually, it's there to help you and hold you back to wait for some other things to take place so you can move through it more smoothly.
right. Yes, definitely. So don't be afraid of Mercury retrograde. Don't be afraid if someone's Mercury is in a different sign than yours. It just means that there's, some sort of adjustment that's going to need to be made on both of your behalf. And you're learning someone else's communication style. And
Yeah.
this is really important at work. So important in the boss, like your boss, your coworkers, your colleagues. I mean, I luckily as an astrologer, when I was like in the corporate world, I people knew I would just ask them. Like everybody wanted me to do their chart. So that was so beneficial to me because I knew how
Yes.
to get what I needed out of someone by speaking their language. So you can use it to your advantage to know someone's Mercury sign.
And again, that comes back to self-awareness.
Yes,
Because when
definitely.
you have self-awareness, you're still going to have your same Mercury sign, but
Mhm.
having self-awareness of what your boundaries and limits are in your sign, and then knowing what the other person's is, you can actually um, do the work to make it more easy to get what everybody needs to be successful.
Yes, I love that. That's
And it also lets you know that they're not doing anything to you. They're just being themselves.
right, right, right.
It has nothing to do with you. We take things so personally, and then we
Mhm.
create this story, and it's like, oh, they're doing this just because they know I don't like this. It's like, no, it's just they're a Taurus. They're just persistent. They want the facts. Just give them the damn facts,
Right, right. Yes. No, it's so true. It makes life easier. So definitely get to know that for other
especially with your
people.
kids too. Oh
Oh,
my,
yes. And
yeah,
for the parents, you really want to know your child's Mercury for schooling and knowing how they learn, what's their learning style. Like that's so important to know as you're raising a child, I think, is to know their Mercury.
for
That'll
sure.
help. Mhm.
For sure. So put down in the comments, what's your Mercury sign and
Yes.
how has it helped you? Or did you have an epiphany listening to us? And do you want to share that? Please share with us. We'd love to hear.
We love to hear comments, feedback, and we love that you listen to us.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening and catch us on the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.